Hi, my name is Lisa and welcome to my channel. This is our second video, so I'm just going to talk about firstly what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to do some stuff on sensory issues. So a lot of autistic people struggle with sensory things and sensory overload, and which turns into meltdown sometimes. I'm going to talk about memory and how that affects autistic people, or how it affects me anyway. It might not be all autistic people. I'm going to talk about executive dysfunction as well, which is a condition, I suppose, that can be associated with autism, or autistic inertia as well, which is something that a lot of autistic people talk about and struggle with. And then I'm going to do some talk about eye contact as well and how that's different for autistic people as well. I'm going to put some links down below for firstly a page that I found that was shared on one of my Facebook groups, which explains the spectrum a bit better, that it's not just a spectrum from bad to good. It's actually just a whole range of traits that are spread across that spectrum, and I've never been able to explain it very well, but that link explains it really well. So I'll put that up and make sure you have a look at that because it's really helpful. I'm also going to put up the names of some of the groups or pages on Facebook that I like, that either some of them are just for autistic people or people that are self-diagnosed as autistic, whereas others are for neurotypical people as well, so everyone sort of can pick up a bit of information from those. And I'll put the link for my Instagram as well, which has got some of my paintings up there if you are keen to have a look at that, which is one of my special interests. Okay, so with the sensory issues that autistic people face every day, it always varies in sort of severity, or it varies day to day as well, and it varies in each person what they have issues with on a sensory scale. So for me, bright lights really irritate my eyes. I know I walked into one of the shops the other day and their lighting was super bright, and some people wear sunglasses inside, like especially in shopping centres because they are quite bright, just because it irritates your eyes, it gives you headaches, that sort of stuff. I get sensory migraines in general, I think just from overload. So whether I've done a lot during the day, or I've had to interact with lots of people, or I've been to something like a shopping centre where there's lots of bright lights and loud noises and stuff like that, I tend to get migraines that basically only go away when I sleep, and sometimes not even then. If I've got a migraine at night, sometimes I'll wake up again with it in the morning. But yeah, basically the only thing that fixes it is not doing anything. So it's essentially my body's way of making me stop, so that it's not overloaded on a sensory scale. So I also hate loud noises. I can handle some loud noises, but I hate people like talking really loudly, if I'm like in a quiet time, or just me time. And also things like the sounds of motorbikes. So when a motorbike drives past my house, it sends shivers up my spines. I hate that noise, especially when they're going like through tunnels and stuff. It just makes it echo and makes it really loud, and it just gets in your brain and grates on my nerves. So yeah, I read that on one of the Facebook groups the other day, that someone suggested that noise when we were talking about noises, and yeah, I was like, oh my god, I really hate motorbike noises. It's one of those things that's just too loud. So I struggle with food textures as well. I don't really like mushy foods or soft foods. So like vegetables that have been cooked until they're super soft, or mashed potato. I don't like avocado, all that sort of stuff. I like to have things that have a bit of crunch to them. You know, I'll eat crunchy peanut butter rather than smooth peanut butter. It's just, I don't know, it's odd, but you know, I'll not cook my veggies all the way through, because I need to have a little bit of texture. I don't like it to be just soft. Some people are the opposite. Some people only like soft foods and they won't eat crunchy food. So yeah, that's a really big thing with autism as well. Some people don't like food touching, like to have everything separate, which I can have food touching, but I don't like it. Like, you know, if your gravy sort of slides across your plate into everything else, and it's just annoying. And people have sort of same foods as well. So a lot of autistic people struggle, or some autistic people struggle a lot with food, and they can only eat the same certain foods. You know, they don't really branch out into anything that they haven't tried before, or if they do, it's something similar to something that they've tried. I can eat other foods, but I tend to stick with the same stuff. So if I go to a restaurant or go get takeaway and stuff like that, I'll generally order the same 2 or 3 things every time. And when I'm cooking, I have sort of probably, I don't know, 10 things that I like to cook and that I know how to cook well. And I'll generally cook a variant of those every night that I'm cooking. So I tend to have sort of the same meals, I guess, on a recurring basis. And I can try other recipes, but they're generally quite similar to something that I've tried before. And another one with the sensory stuff is clothing textures as well. So I know wool really irritates my skin. I still wear it sometimes, but it just makes me itchy. I know wool obviously makes normal people feel itchy as well sometimes. But yeah, I think that autism just heightens that feeling and how uncomfortable that feeling is, whereas other people might be able to just deal with the fact that the wool that they're wearing is a little bit itchy. It's, yeah, sort of grates on your nerves a bit. With autism, I love things like stepping on crunchy leaves. I love the noises that crunchy leaves make. So my partner thinks it's really amusing that I will always step on the crunchy leaf. I hate the sound of people eating with their mouth open. Just like that slurpy mouth noise is really unpleasant for me. And I'll do things like stop the microwave before it beeps at the end of its cycle, because I hate the beeping noise. I can't handle it. I'll stop it on like 1 second, so that I don't have to hear it. And I'll also like I try not to step in on the cracks in pavement as well if I'm walking. Not like a superstitious thing or anything. It's just like I try and match up like my footsteps. So if the pavement's sort of the same blocks every time, I'll try and do like 2 steps between each and then walk over the crack, so I don't have to step on the crack. And sometimes I'll make a really large step or a very small step in order to avoid the crack. It's not necessary, obviously, but it's just something that I do when I'm walking as something to do, something extra to occupy my mind. So I'll talk about memory now. So I have a really terrible short-term memory. I often can't remember why I walked into a room. I can't remember where I put things. I know that I put things in sort of certain places, but occasionally I'll just throw it somewhere else in a hurry, and then not be able to find it the next time that I need it. You know, or I'll know that I've put something in a specific place to try and jog my memory, and I won't be able to remember where that place is. And yeah, I forget what I'm going to say in a conversation. I have to repeat that thing in my head over and over whilst trying to listen to a conversation so that I don't forget what I was going to say. And I think that also causes me to interrupt people a lot when they're talking as well, not to be rude, just because I've got something that relates to what they're saying that I want to get out before sort of the conversation changes and before I forget it. So yeah, I tend to interrupt people in mid-story or mid-sentence, and it's not me being rude, it's just that I've got something that relates to what they're saying at that point in time, that I want to get across before they move on with the story. So anyone that knows me sort of accepts that I do that, I think, but probably if I was talking with people that I didn't know very well, I think that would come across as quite rude. Um, yeah, so, terrible short-term memory, can't remember what I was going to do during the day, what I was going to buy from the shops. I'll go for a specific reason and then I'll forget that one thing that I went for. So I know a lot of people, neurotypical people, also have terrible short-term memories, but I found that that's something that I struggle with, particularly on a daily basis. I'll do that 10, 20 times a day, every day. So, but I have a really good long-term memory, so I can remember things that happened years ago that I've stored in my long-term memory really well, like down to really specific details. And like things from my childhood, like essentially it's like playing out a scene in your head. Like I can remember everything about that, but I can't remember where I put my keys 5 minutes ago. And sometimes it's the other way around. Some people have really good short-term memories but terrible long-term memories, stuff like that. I remember faces really well, but never names. So if I've met someone once or twice, I'm probably not going to remember their name, but I will know their face and I'll know that I know them from somewhere, but I won't know where I know them from. It's, you can have conversations with people who you know that you know, but you're not sure how. If I meet you and I don't remember your name, it's nothing about you, it's just that my memory is terrible. And it's the same with like people in movies as well, or TV shows. I'll know that I've seen that actor or actress before, trying to remember what I've seen them in, and it's really frustrating when I can't remember. So I spend a lot of time on like Google and IMDb looking for what other movies or TV shows people have been in. And some people have, some autistic people have what's called face blindness as well, where they don't recognize faces very well. So, and varying degrees of that as well, where people might not recognize anyone's face at all. Some people might recognize them a little bit. So that's something to consider as well, that people might not recognize your face if they are autistic. It's something that's happens to be sort of comorbid with autism as well sometimes. So I'll explain autistic inertia as well, and executive dysfunction. I definitely have one of these, but I'm not sure sort of what it would be categorized as. But they're quite similar in the sense that it's sort of the inability to do things like at that point in time. So I'll often put stuff off, not because I'm too busy or because I've got something else to do, but simply because I just can't do it right now. Things like getting out of bed, I'll be like, I'll set 10 alarms in the morning, tell myself that I'll get up at 9 a.m. or whatever, and then 10 a.m. rolls around and I still haven't done it yet. I'll often, when I get home, when I've gone for a drive or gone to the shops or something, I'll sit in the car for a period of time. It could be 15 minutes, it could be 2 hours, just sort of, I guess, working up the motivation to get out and do stuff. I'll often occupy myself with something mindless in the meantime, like just scrolling through Facebook or watching videos or listening to something, and I just end up doing it for ages without even realizing that a lot of time has passed. I think it's essentially just my way of sort of relaxing for a bit before I have to do something. So it's almost like I just can't physically get out of the car at that point in time, because I'm tired or I'm not ready to move on to whatever I have to do, whether it's unpacking, shopping, or something else that I have to do at home when I get in. Things like getting in the shower. It's really hard to motivate myself to have a shower, just because I'll just be sitting in my room again doing something mindless, sort of working up the motivation to do that. And I've read that that's a really common thing with autistic people. that sort of trying to work yourself up to get in the shower is quite common. And then again, that once you're in there, you don't want to get out. I think it's just sort of the effort required is sort of greater than the motivation that you have at that point in time. So yeah, that's something that's really common, that I definitely struggle with on a daily basis. I don't think I've ever had a shower where I haven't had to work myself up to it. Obviously, if I've got something on, I definitely know that I have to, and I don't have any issues with showering once I'm in the shower. But yeah, it's just working up motivation to do things like that. Like if I have to go to the shops, or if I've got several things on that during that day that I have to do, sort of I end up doing it probably 2 hours later than I originally thought I would, because I've got to sort of work up the motivation to get out of bed and get ready and then get into the car and drive wherever I'm going. Stuff like that. Sometimes if I have to go to multiple stops, I'll sit in a car for 10 or 15 minutes between each place. Yeah, stuff like that. So that's another one of those things. There's a really cool theory called spoons theory as well that sort of I think ties into that. It was made by a lady when she was trying to explain to her friend what it's like to live with a chronic illness. And I'll put the link to that in the description as well, because that's something that a lot of autistic people resonate with, a lot of people with illnesses resonate with, and it's really interesting to read. The first time I read it, it made a lot of sense, and I think it helps people understand that a lot more and what people deal with on a daily basis. But it's basically, she made this theory that you have a certain number of spoons throughout the day, you get them in the morning, and then activities during the day use those spoons. But it's just really interesting the way that she explains it, and sort of what you do when you run out of spoons. So yeah, a lot of people will often say that they don't have the spoons to explain something, or they don't have the spoons to do something, which is that same sort of theory that you just can't do that thing right now. Or she also talks about how you can borrow spoons from the next day, but then obviously you've got less spoons for that day as well. So yeah, definitely have a read of that because it's really helpful, I found. Okay, so we'll go on to eye contact now. So a lot of autistic people struggle with eye contact. It's also a really big misconception that autistic people can't give eye contact. A lot of autistic people can. I can, but I feel uncomfortable with it if it's for a prolonged period of time, sort of thing. If I'm talking in a group, I'll look at multiple people instead of looking at the one person that I'm directing the comment to. I also struggle with sort of how long I should maintain eye contact for, like, especially during job interviews and stuff like that, where you know that you should be doing it. Struggling to know how much is too much or how much is too little, and then wondering if the person thinks that you're making too much eye contact or not enough eye contact, or you both look away at the same time and then you look back and you wonder if they think that you've been just staring at their eyes the whole time. Things like that. I think it's a self-esteem thing for me as well, because I don't have great self-esteem. So I think people looking at me makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm wondering, if they're thinking about what I look like or what I'm saying or what I sound like, all that sort of stuff. But then again, a lot of autistic people don't give a lot of eye contact, or they don't give any eye contact. But there is that misconception that it's all autistic people, whereas it's actually not. So yeah, it's a bit of a it's an issue, but it's varying in different people as to what the issue is. Some people don't have an issue with eye contact as well, at all. So yeah, it's just different for each different person. So yeah, cool. I think that was all I was going to talk about today. So I'll do another video soon, I'll think of a new bunch of autistic traits that people display. And yeah, post that up for you, but hopefully you found this helpful, and definitely check out the links to all of those pages and stuff, because I found them really helpful, and I think it just explains things in a way that I probably can't very well. So yeah, but cool, I'll see you soon.